In this edition of Southern Newsweek, the government announces a multi-million-dollar package for predator control in Dunedin. Wanaka is the southern region where Kiwi-built homes are going up. And people are chastised for irresponsible behaviour around southern wildlife. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. The government has promised $4.3 million towards a hugely ambitious project to reduce predators around Dunedin over the next 5 years. Conservation Minister Eugenie Sage has announced the funding and the start of the $15 million predator-free Dunedin project.
Setting up predator traps in Dunedin's town belt. It's the first South Island area to be funded by government-owned Predator Free 2050 Limited. The aim's to eradicate possums from the Otago Peninsula and decimate possums, rats and stoats in the hills around the Orokonui Eco Sanctuary in the next 5 years.
The whole project is mightily ambitious, both from a technical perspective but also from, the social licence perspective. But we believe it's achievable. We believe it's achievable to eradicate possums from the peninsula. That will be the first time it's been achieved at a significant scale on the mainland of New Zealand.
Dunedin's been chosen for funding because of its conservation history and its unique geography, with the peninsula areas of dense bush and urban locations. There's also plans to engage local residents, getting them involved in predator control in backyards and city reserves.
Our goals for the urban area are primarily to have Dunedin residents engaged and helping with the mission. Now, we see this as a collective Dunedin mission to be predator-free by 2050.
Conservation Minister Eugenie Sage says the project will be a team effort.
It's a real partnership. To protect our Indigenous plants and wildlife, we need to do it together. DOC can't do it on its own, so it's working with councils, with iwi, with hapu, with community organisations, businesses and landholders.
So the LRC are contributing $1.5 million over 5 years. Dunedin City Council are contributing $850,000 over the 5 years. And as well as that, the Dunedin City Council are focusing their predator control efforts within their parks and reserves in the cityscape here.
If the project's successful, it'll create a relatively safe habitat for birds outside the existing eco-sanctuary.
We've seen in areas like Wellington, kaka now back in the city. That was considered inconceivable 20 years ago.
They're hoping for similar success in Dunedin, with kaka, yellow-eyed penguins and South Island robins hopefully dispersing around the city in years to come. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The first 10 owners of more than 200 new affordable homes to be built in Wanaka are expected to move in before Christmas. Housing Minister Phil Twyford was recently in Wanaka to announce plans for Kiwi-built homes to be built within the North Lake subdivision over the next 2 years.
The first Kiwi-built homes announced in the South Island and the first outside of Auckland. Housing Minister Phil Twyford in Wanaka over the weekend, with the news 211 homes are set to be built in the North Lake subdivision over the next 2 years. Twyford says Wanaka and Queenstown have been hard hit by the housing crisis.
This district has experienced some of the worst, most severe effects of the national housing crisis. And Queenstown Lakes area has experienced some of the most rapid growth, but also some of the highest house prices.
The North Lake development is a master-planned community adjacent to the Wanaka township, which will comprise more than 800 homes. Twyford says the government saw the need and prioritised the region.
The typical house price in this district now exceeds that of Auckland. And the effects of that are horrendous, particularly on the people who need to do the work that keeps our visitor economy ticking over. And we've prioritised, as a result of that, we've prioritised this district, Queenstown and Wanaka, as one of our priority areas.
He says there's been significant interest in the Kiwi Build scheme, with thousands of people applying for homes.
We've had a phenomenal response to the first Kiwi Build homes. 44,000 Kiwis have registered on the Kiwi Build website, and there are several thousand people going through the online pre-qualification process at the moment so that they can enter the ballot. It's been a fantastic response.
The ballot for the first 10 homes is set to open on October the 8th and last a month. Prices will range from $565,000 to $650,000, with the first 10 homes set to be built and occupied by Christmas. In Wanaka, the South Today.
Visitors to a Dunedin beach have been caught on camera posing for photos and dancing close to protected sea lions. And a local wildlife expert says such behaviour is a constant frustration.
Showing more tourists walking dangerously close to the animals. The New Zealand Sea Lion Trust advises people to keep at least 10 metres away from resting sea lions, or 20 metres if the animal is active.
But if you can give them more space than that, then please do. They're resting on the beach. There's a reason that they need their rest, so we need to respect them for that.
She says the advice about not getting between seals and the sea doesn't strictly apply to sea lions.
Sea lions, on the other hand, are not afraid of people and are more likely to stand their ground. They don't see the water necessarily as their safety. So we generally say with seals, yep, don't get between them and the water, but with sea lions, go around whichever side gives them more space. So that might actually be going between them and the water, and that's okay, provided that you're giving them lots of distance.
But it's not just overseas tourists in the firing line. There have been reports of surfers deliberately harassing the animals.
They're highly endangered. We're very lucky to have them here, but people don't realize how special that is and that we need to really be respecting them. So getting those messages out, and also again, locals modeling good behavior, sort of talking to tourists or visitors and saying, hey, actually you should probably back up a little bit, give them a little bit more space, and here's why.
The Department of Conservation says that while sea lions are not typically aggressive, they are large and powerful and have a much stronger bite than a dog. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
Graham Bell started going to the New Zealand Merino Shearing Championships almost by accident, sneaking in as a young boy to watch the best in the industry compete in shearing and wool handling. His childhood fascination then became a lifelong passion.
It's a fine yarn. New Zealand Merino Shearing Championships committee member Graham Bell looks over some of the fine wool shorn during the New Zealand Merino Shearing Championships. Bell's a life member of the New Zealand Merino Shearing Society and a long-serving wool handling judge, but admits he kind of just fell into it.
In the sense that we lived right opposite the town hall in Alex, and I was just a young little lad, used to wag school and got involved, and that involvement has taken me to a lifelong career with wool. So yeah, this is my 57th show here, and this is our 57th show.
His lifetime career and an unofficial record confirms his standing in the industry. He says the wool handling industry is in good hands with younger people following in his footsteps.
To have the world champion, the current world champion, Joel Henneray here is really fantastic, but he's been coming here ever since he was a 14-year-old, I think. I stand to be corrected with that, but certainly a very young lad, might have been 12, but he was a very young boy, and now he's the world champion.
Joel Henneray won this event last year, but is dividing his time between competing and commentating.
Pretty much just to inform the crowd, the general public, about what's happening with the wool handling. I just compare the wool handling here. I have done for maybe 10 odd years, and also competing as well.
Don Clark says shearing this breed of sheep is a challenge to North Island shearers or people unfamiliar with the finer wool.
And these guys from the North Island, like some of the top North Island shearers, can't shear these. They're harder to shear, and they don't do the numbers what they do on the North Island.
Shearing industry greats were also honoured during the weekend's championships, with Dion Morrell receiving the inaugural McSkimming Trophy during Saturday night's prize giving. In Alexandra, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, the Mornington cable car is another step closer to returning with the delivery of a historic vehicle. And a rare white whale has been spotted by University of Otago researchers. Welcome back. The Dunedin Heritage Light Rail Trust has returned the number 95 grip car from the Roslyn route to the city, where it will be housed in the Trust's Mornington shed. It's one more piece of the jigsaw puzzle of Dunedin's cable car history back in place as work continues to reinstate the Mornington line.
Finally returning home. Onlookers take photographs as the Roslyn 95 cable car is lifted into the Dunedin Heritage Light Rail Trust's shed at Mornington Park. Trust spokesman Neville Jemmett says the car has been at the Tramway Historical Society at Ferrymead for the last 27 years, where it's been well looked after.
But they've just taken it back right from scratch right up to there, and just recently, over the last month, they've actually rubbed it all down and recoated it all in lacquer, and it looks like it's just come out of a plastic bag, so it's brilliant.
The last cable car to Mornington made its way up High Street on March the 4th, 1957, decorated with flags and led by 4 pipers for the final part of the trip. Jemmett says the Trust is planning a big official opening for the shed soon, which he hopes will be a splendid occasion.
We are. We're going to make a big opening because when it finished off here, the band piped it into the building, the old cable car building, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to pipe them back out again. So we're trying to invite the Prime Minister, who's the Minister of Heritage and that, and to open one of them and ask the Mayor to open the other, and we'll give them a remote control for the doors and they'll open it and they'll come out one by one being piped out.
He says the next stage of the work is to raise the $23 million needed for a larger building, rails and other infrastructure to get the cars running. The Trust also has further plans with tourism in mind. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Queenstown Airport has put its expansion plans on hold after a thunderous response from the community. The airport announced earlier this year the need to expand its noise boundaries to allow for growth, doubling of the number of flights over the next 3 decades. But the outcry from Queenstown has been as loud as a jet engine, as it struggles to cope with growth from a tourism and population boom. Figures released by Queenstown Airport Corporation reveal it received nearly 1,500 online survey responses, as well as 19 individual and group submissions during its 5-week public consultation. Chief Executive Colin Keel says after considering community and stakeholder feedback, QAC will advance its Wanaka Airport Master Plan work and consider other key long-term planning initiatives before progressing. The expansion would enable an average of 114 flights a day by 2045 and more than double annual passenger movements. But noise from aircraft would increase significantly, affecting 3,000 additional homes, 4 schools and Lakes District Hospital. A research team from the University of Otago have returned from a month-long trip to the islands south of New Zealand. The study used unmanned drones to investigate a recovering population of southern right whales, which were hunted to near extinction in earlier centuries.
Once hunted close to extinction, healthy southern right whales calving at the Auckland Islands in New Zealand's subantarctic. Scientists, including Dr. Will Raymond, have been using drones to film the whales for their research.
With the development of drone technology, we're able to get really good aerial images looking straight down from above the whales. And if we know the characteristics of the camera and the lens, we can calibrate those images and we can measure the whales really precisely. So we can measure their body length and also we can measure their body condition, essentially how fat they are. And we're looking to see how healthy they are, how healthy this recovering population is.
He says the southern right whales are in an environment with plenty of food and not much impact from shipping, and the study results are positive.
We see, really big fat whales down in the Auckland Islands. It's a fantastic habitat.
But the situation is different for their critically endangered Northern Hemisphere cousins.
North Atlantic right whales, which you find off the east coast of the USA, have scars from entanglement in fishing gear, they have scars from ship strike, and they just look way less healthy. They're much skinnier, much poorer body condition.
The drone footage will allow scientists to use New Zealand's whales to measure the health of other remnant populations of right whales around the world.
And so we're using the southern right whales in New Zealand as a kind of a control, as a yardstick for what a healthy right whale population should look like, so we can make some inference about the impacts on those northern whales.
While the North American right whale population is estimated to be less than 500, the total number of southern right whales is recovering and now around 20% of pre-whaling levels. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
The North Otago Horticultural Society celebrated their annual spring show last weekend. Held at the Scottish Hall in Oamaru, the event featured spring blooms grown around the district.
Daffodils in all sorts of shapes and colours. This is the 150th annual spring show for the North Otago Horticultural Society. And Society member Alan Adamson says this year spring arrived about 3 weeks early, requiring him to use a refrigerator to delay his blooms.
If I hadn't had my daffodils in the fridge for 2 weeks, some of them, I wouldn't have had any. They'd have been all over finished.
Other displays included fruit and vegetables, and a recent addition to the show, the much-loved orchids.
We've also got the Orchid Club involved with us this year. They've been with us now for 2 shows. It increases the popularity of the place as well. And personally, I'm not an orchid person, but, you know.
He says the public response to the show has been overwhelmingly positive.
Everybody's amazed. Okay. When they walk through that door, oh, look at this, you know.
All up, over 400 entries were exhibited at this year's show. In Oamaru, for the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, a southern dairy company is moving up in the world. And the school holidays are very colourful thanks to a group of Dunedin teens. Welcome back. Volunteers from the Stroke Foundation, along with St John and members of Rotary, are set to offer free blood pressure tests across the nation this weekend. Staff at the Dunedin City Council took the opportunity to have their blood pressure tested this week, with Mayor Dave Cole also taking part.
Lining up to have their blood pressures tested. Dunedin City Council staff and elected councillors taking part in the 10th Annual Stroke Foundation blood pressure checks.
We're launching our Otago campaign here at the Dunedin City Council, offering free blood pressure checks for staff.
Blood pressure tests among staff read as a good representation of the general public. Community Stroke Advisor Judith Hislop says a lot of people don't know they've got high blood pressure, but there are some things which contribute to it.
So things that can increase blood pressure are things like smoking, an unhealthy lifestyle, so that involves maybe not enough exercise during the day, or perhaps an unbalanced diet.
It was Mayor Dave Cole's turn, along with council staff today, but Hislop says everyone can get a free blood pressure check this weekend at Pack and Save, New World and Foodstuffs outlets.
We're offering free blood pressure checks from between 10 and 2 p.m, and that's supported by Rotary and St John.
She says a stroke, where a clot blocks blood from getting to the brain, is one of the major causes of disability and death in Aotearoa. People who take advantage of the free blood pressure checks are referred to their GP if the results show they're at risk. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A small Dunedin dairy company is looking at expanding its operations. The people behind Holy Cow Dairy Products say they've come a long way since selling milk at the farm gate.
Sitting on the hills above Port Chalmers with a backdrop of the Otago Harbour are a small herd of cattle doing something extra special.
So Holy Cow is a really small boutique dairy, and we produce Jersey cow milk, cream, butter and yoghurt.
Together, farm owners Meryl and Alex McNeil, alongside Tess Trotter and husband Sam McMullen, make the Holy Cow team.
Initially the farm was just a raw milk farm run by Meryl and Alex, and it's been that way for about 15 years. And over the last year we've built our own pasteurising plant, and the farm's grown, and we're now distributing milk further afield.
Building their own pasteurising unit and gaining MPI approval has allowed them to legally distribute at markets and cafes, rather than just raw milk at the farm gate. And sustainability is always front of mind.
Farming can be done in a sustainable way that cares for the animals and the environment. The fact that we use reusable packaging and milk in glass bottles is really important to me. And for me also, it's a connection into our whole local food system.
Not only do Meryl and Alex love working on the land, they also enjoy the product they create.
It's real, it's unadulterated, and it tastes good, and coloured cows have a decent butterfat and solids non-fat content, so it actually goes down your throat without feeling. They used to say back home they kept one Friesian to wash the buckets.
Even though Holy Cow has made plenty of progress over the last year, there are still big plans for the future, including expanding the farm and engaging the community with the local food source.
I'm getting pretty old, but we still have work to do. The herd has now outgrown this. We've outgrown our place, so stay tuned. We'll do it if we manage.
In Dunedin, the South Today.
A tiger moth, a Spitfire, a Mustang, and to oversee it all, a new control tower. But unlike the original, the tower is not operational. It's a replica designed by a local man whose vision it was to recreate history at Ashburton Airfield, an important World War II training base.
The golden age of aviation. The field of the Ashburton Aviation Museum awash with many splendid flying machines of yesteryear, celebrating one man's vision, which is now a reality. Late aviation enthusiast Eric Druitt's dream of a replica control tower now stands adjacent to the airfield.
Now, as many of you will know, Eric approached the museum initially with an idea that we might like to take over his extensive collection of books, maps, photos and memorabilia, all relating to Bomber Command, which we happily agreed to do. And from that start grew this amazing idea that we should construct a replica tower on the field as Eric's legacy.
Many aircraft from days gone by are on display, including a Tiger Moth, replica Spitfires and Mustangs, a DC-3 and the museum's Harrier jump jet, along with dozens of other planes. Owen Moore says the tower project is a huge event for the organisation, and getting it built in the first place was a serious challenge.
Building a tower is a huge undertaking, and to even think we could get it off the ground was a great achievement, which involved a number of people. One of our founding members, Mr. Jim Chivers, had always been keen on building something on the field that showed how the airfield was when it was an operational field.
Eric Druitt's descendants cut the ribbon to declare the tower open before people clambered up its steps to see the displays on the second story. Lifelong aviation enthusiast Graham Church remembers his days in the Air Training Corps when he looked up to pilots.
It all sounded quite exciting, and the ATC boys got invited out to come and help. Well, that was just fantastic. I fancy coming out, being invited out to come and help the Air Force. That was really sounded important, and so I volunteered. And they also said that if you came out for 5 days after school and worked hard, you might, just might, get a ride in the Harvard.
Along with a host of historic aircraft, there were also vintage vehicles on display, including old Ford trucks and airport service vehicles. In Ashburton, the South Today.
A Dunedin artist organised a holiday program that involves teaching secondary school aged pupils how to paint a wall mural. 10 young people aged between 10 and 16 were busy this week adding their colourful designs to a cafe wall in the CBD.
It's not often teenagers are invited to add their artistic flair to the walls of inner city businesses, but that's exactly what this group have spent the last couple of days doing, painting their street art on the side of a Dunedin cafe. Teacher Jonathan Waters has run a street art program before, painting on the same wall.
Because it's the official Dunedin street art changing wall, you have to put a submission in, a design to the council and also to the guys at Dunedin Street Art, and they say, yes, you can go ahead and paint it.
The pupils are enjoying the chance to get out and put their creative talents to use.
Gets me out of the house, I guess, because if it wasn't for the street art camp, I'll probably just be sitting at home playing Fortnite.
Because the wall is regularly repainted, some of the young artists are going over their own work from last year, and their current creations will eventually be obliterated as well.
I don't mind. I think it would be kind of cool to come back in a year and see what somebody else has done. Like, I don't think I'll be too sad to see it go.
I mean, my artwork was kind of where mine one was, so, you know, I'm kind of just painting over mine painting, which I'm cool with that.
Waters says he sees Dunedin street art going from strength to strength.
The trajectory is just going to keep going onwards and upwards. Like, it's already getting really well known internationally as a city to come to with some amazing work.
The school holiday mural is set to be completed by the end of today. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
That's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Get online and check us out on Facebook or keep up with Southern News via our website channel39.co.nz. I'm Melissa Barton, thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.